Hi, I'm Magic Lens. I'm a small independent artist and creator of webcomic Changeling. If you want to check it out, it's free to read on my Patreon channel and on Webtoon Canvas. Hi again, it's been a while. I've been working on my comic and it's been around 6 months since I first started posting my chapters for it, and I wanted to do an update video, a bit of an unscripted update video, which I probably should be scripted because this is very difficult to come off the top of my head. But I just wanted to go over some thoughts that I have as a new comic creator, as well as my experience and growth and seeing how my own goals have changed over time, as well as looking to the future and planning for those next moments within the stories. As a beginner comic creator who's just sort of doing this as a hobby for fun and just for my own development of my skills, as well as fulfilling my lifelong dream of telling the story that I've been working on for a very, very long time. My comic that I'm working on is a fantasy adventure romance comic, and it's full of dark humor, full of like survival moments and monsters and existential dread, and it's been a really fun experience as my first comic and kind of my magnum opus, to be honest. But feel free to check it out if you would like. I know the story is not for everyone, and I'm totally cool with that, but in case you're interested, I have the links for it in the description, and you can check it out. Creating this comic has been a whirlwind of learning experiences. It has been really interesting to find new things to try out and drawing things that I'm not used to drawing. That's what a lot of comic making is coming across things that you've probably never drawn in your life before and having to draw it for your comic, because it goes through so many different ideas, so many different concepts, so many different places, and as a comic creator, you are constantly working on building that world out. You are working on pulling this galaxy out of your ass, essentially, and you have to show everything. It's not something that is in written word where you're able to describe something. No, you have to draw it out. And I think from the standpoint of when I first started working on this comic, I was very into doing just for fun. Like, I never really intended to have a big audience with it. I never really intended to be anything more than just sort of telling the story for myself. I remember when I first started working on that prologue chapter, and it feels so far away now looking back at it, and the art is a little iffy, but at the time, I wasn't really paying too much attention to it. I was just sort of doing the art, but it was a huge step because I had actually just finished that year, it was 2021, working on the script, and the script that I've been working on since 2015, 2016, essentially. So I remember not even considering starting on the drawing until the full script was finished. Another reason why I was so hesitant to even start to begin with, drawing out all the different scenes and going through my chapters and creating those, is because I felt like my art wasn't even good enough. Like I felt like I had to get good in order to even start. So I had spent so long finessing the script, and I got to a point where I was fully satisfied with my script and I had nowhere else to go. I was like, okay, well, the only thing that I can do is start. And looking back, I'm so glad I did, because I think so many artists, and myself included, would still be sitting and thinking, oh, I have to get good, but when is good? So I thoroughly believe that starting and just getting that pen and the paper and drawing it out is the key thing. So I started with my storyboards in a sketchbook, just hashing them out, following my script. And when it comes to stories, I feel like I really need a plan to follow, because there's an idea that I want to be able to tell fully. I don't want to miss out any details. I don't want any plot holes. So having that script was huge, and being my backup of knowing that, okay, I have this really solid script and I'm going to be going through little by little, just drawing those little things out, and soon I'll have a chapter to put out. And so I went and I took those thumbnails from my sketchbook, I scanned them into Photoshop, and that's when I started working on the digital art for it. So I did it all in black and white, and it still is in black and white. It will always be in black and white. But not only was this an experience for me to learn consistency as well as formatting for scroll comics as well, I was very new to that. I've only ever read them. I never really made my own. So that was a big learning point for me. So I took the beginning of this huge epic and broke it up into little pieces, and little by little I was working on it in the very late nights after my very demanding full-time job, and I would go and draw a little bit each day. Maybe it would only be a single panel, probably not even, probably just line art, maybe just a thumbnail sketch. And I drew things on individual projects in Photoshop, which is insane. And then I found out that you can do like artboards in Photoshop. And so I had like up to 60 artboards on a single project in Photoshop. And that crashed, and I lost almost all, like 50% of that work in that whole project, which was insane. But, you know, that's why OneDrive is a great thing to have, because it backs up a copy of your work. So I was very lucky to have that. Please save yourself the heartache and put on autosave, because I remember the moment when it crashed. It was devastating. I remember I didn't believe it. I thought I could just sort of fix it. I didn't think that they were gone. I thought maybe they were on hidden layers. And no, everything was gone. And so I remember getting up from my computer and laughing. And then I sat down my bed and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to redo all that work. There's times during the comic making like this that can be very demotivating. But as creators, we are blessed with the ability to come back from these things. We are blessed with a creative mind to be able to work through these ideas, and also our ability to adapt. And it's not easy, it never is, but it's also part of learning. You know, no one comes out of the gate knowing everything. And these are the things in life that we have to go through in order to be able to get stronger. So yeah, it was kind of a hit, but you know, luckily I had a copy backup. It was also very rewarding because this is my dream, was to be working on this. This was something that I wanted to do by the time I die. This is something that I actually had a bit of a wake-up call a few years ago. I guess it was a sort of close call with death, but it was a memento mori. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was something that really woke me up. I saw I saw the light in a way, because it was a moment of being like, well, okay, here I am telling myself that I can't work on this project because I have to get good. I have to get better at my own skills in order to justify even starting. But if I never start, then what if I die? And what if I never, ever get to achieve this dream? I have to start, even if I'm not good, even if my characters are not matching up, or if I can't draw hands, or if things are disproportionate, or if I can't draw backgrounds. Why is that stopping me? So it was a wake-up call, and I remember I went home that day and I lied down in bed and I couldn't sleep, because I was thinking of, if I not made it out, that my story will never get to be told. The things that I've always wanted to do in my life will never be done. The people that I wanted to be here for will never have me in their life. So it was a reminder of not to take things for granted, not to take our life for granted, because yeah, they can go in a blink of an eye. And the most important thing in life that you can do is live. And that means just doing what you want to do, right? Enjoying what you want to enjoy and not feeling shame about those things. So I'm very thankful for everyone that I meet, for everyone who's been in my life supporting me. And I think that's something that, if I can share a little tidbit, that would be, yeah, remember that one day you'll die. So please go forth and live. That is the one thing I ask, is go forth and live. It's a reason why I believe everyone should be following their dreams. I know there's a lot of difficulties in life that we face, a lot of obstacles, and some can be financial, some can be personal, some can be health, and because those are serious obstacles, those are something that can really prevent someone from getting a takeoff or the best start into following their dream, or it can even make following their dream a bit of a difficult or painful experience. And it just shouldn't be like that. You should just go for it. You should just make it. Do it. You have to get started somewhere, because if you never do, then you may miss your opportunity. And I would hate to be in a world where your ideas and your passion projects are not here. I believe that every project has a purpose. Every project can find someone that needs it. And especially when it comes to stories, I believe as creators, we are so essential to the growth of humanity. Stories are our history. Stories are people. Stories are future and past and present. And it's It's something that when we're considering the introduction of AI and AI art, and I don't want to get too much into that whole aspect, but it's also this threat that artists feel. There's a lot of mixed opinions about it, a lot of mixed feelings, and I understand it as an artist. Yeah, you can probably put into ChatGPT and ask them to create you a isekai romance fantasy, and it'll spit something out for you, and it might be pretty all right, but I still believe that there's nothing that compares to the human spirit and something that is from the heart, stories and experiences that are even from your own life. And I really do firmly believe on drawing from life, and so many of the things I've put into Changeling are, I guess, qualities about myself, qualities or experiences that I've had in my life, experiences in meeting people in my life, stories from my parents, stories from friends that I've met, and I think it's so beautiful. Our lives are filled with stories around us. We don't often recognize and we don't think about it often, but every single person that you meet has a story, and then they hear stories from other people and from their families, passed on even from generations, from people who have long since passed. Those stories are still with them. Those stories are carried on to the future, and those will be told long into the generations in the future. That is immortal. That is immortality. And there's a reason why stories are so impactful, and especially fantasy stories, because they are an escape for the human mind to be able to get away from the troubles and those obstacles in life that I was mentioning before. We all have things that we want to do in our lives, but we do face the realities of this world, and it's not easy. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of grief, but it's the reality. And that's why fantasy is necessary, and that's why telling stories is necessary, and that's why your story is necessary. So to anyone who wants to start writing a comic, do it. Start, because it's necessary. Your story is necessary to humanity. The characters that I've written into Changeling, as for my favorite punching bag, my main character, Ruthalia, I love making her flawed. I love making her a character that is just so utterly human, and also play with my own creative ability to put myself into the mindset of a character and their values, and saying, okay, well, if I was this character, how would I react to the situation? So especially when it came to showing that in the actual series, I wanted to be able to draw them and have them be ugly. I think that there is, and have so much respect for people who can draw in that manhwa style that is just perfect, right? They have very clean lines, they have a very beautiful work, it is gorgeous, but I can't do that art. And I also think that that's not the story that I want to tell. It's not a story of perfection, it's a story of imperfection, representing the ruthlessness of nature as well as the calm and the beauty of it as well. And another thing is, comparison. It's really difficult to not compare yourself to other people's work or abilities, especially considering that we have the internet at our fingertips, and that's also access to thousands upon thousands of things that people have done, and could be the same idea that you have, it could be the same work style that you have, and it could be something that can cause you to hesitate. And I understand that it's not easy to just look past the comparisons, and I compare myself all the time with other artists, and I try not to. It's a bad habit, but I keep on thinking, if they're having success doing this, then maybe I should try that too, but then it doesn't get the same results, and then I wonder why. And I realized that I should just stop. I should stop trying to be like others and just be me and do my own thing. And I might not have a huge audience, but that wasn't really my goal. My goal was to do this for myself, and that should be the basis of your dream projects, your passion projects, is do it for yourself, do it to expand your knowledge, do it to expand your goals and your will as an artist. Looking back at the chapters, I think it's also easy to cringe at some of my fugly art, and it's so easy to get caught up in that whole idea of I just want to redraw everything, I want to redo it all. But part of me feels that if I go back and I redo it again, then I'm going to finish that, and then I'm going to look back and go, oh man, I got to redo it again. And so, and that's the problem. And so I got to this point when I'm drawing my panels, and currently as I'm drawing my panels, I kind of have this fuck it mentality where I would do a line and that line is just going to stay there. I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to fix it. I'm just going to have to live with it. And so it's been a big practice within my own art that I'm leaving the mistakes in, I'm leaving the sketchiness in, I'm leaving the raw energy in. And that's something that I've learned in the comic making process, is that you're doing hundreds of panels and hundreds of illustrations and you're drawing thousands of things so many different times, and it's exhausting. And that's part of motivation, is that I want to be able to keep this fun for me, and that means I don't want to beat myself up every time I draw a panel. I don't want to tell myself, oh, this looks like shit, do it again. And then I finish it and then I'll tell myself, nah, that still doesn't look good, do it again. I never want to get to that point where I am making this a hell for myself, because creating Changeling, creating this story, is my own escape from reality. It is my own peace away from the world, where I'm working on something and I'm expanding my art skills, and it's fun right now. It's fun for me. Yes, it's a lot of work, and sometimes there's things I have to do that are not necessarily fun, but it's still something that I really do love doing. I never want to make it where it's a chore to do. And so that's why a lot of my artwork, I feel that, yeah, it's not the best, and I'm okay with that. I'm at peace with that I fully embrace receiving criticism. At the same time, I feel like as artists, there's a point where you have to trust your gut above anything else. Yes, there's things objectively that I feel that through receiving help from others and people who are more experienced, that makes sense, but there's pieces of kind of nothing criticisms that don't really add to the story, that won't really improve it, because you are the artist. You are essentially the god of your story. You are the god of your world that you're creating. You know, who can really tell you that you're wrong? You know, you want to make the work that you want to make. And that's another thing about feedback, is I appreciate it and I definitely take it into account, especially when it comes to formatting. I do believe that there's a lot of things that I myself can improve on. But when it comes to story, or sometimes if it comes to the art, yes, you know, there's some things that I guess objectively would be able to fix, but sometimes, you know, you don't have to take every piece of criticism and implement that, because even though someone may be more experienced than you, or maybe if it's someone who doesn't even know anything and it's just their own personal opinion, that's just all it is, it's their own personal opinion. Don't feel obliged that you have to listen to every single piece of criticism and take that as seriously way to change your story. I feel like there's a point when you have to really trust your gut as a creator, and a storyteller, because if you don't, then your story could fall into the whims of others, right? You're worried about approval, constantly worried about public thought about it, and that in itself can also kill your passion, especially if you have a public-facing passion project such as a comic or a book that you're writing. I feel, and I've used this analogy before when I talk to people, and I feel like it's like showing your bare butt to the world, because it's something that's so deeply raw, especially when it comes from fantasy, right? This is something that you're imagining. This is something that you spend time creating, spend time world building, creating fictional characters. In a way, I feel like there can be a lot of shame around it. There can be a lot of hesitance in sharing it to the world. And that was a huge anxiety for myself. I'm very extremely shy in my personal life. Sometimes I won't talk unless I'm talked to. I hate public speaking, and I find it so extremely anxiety inducing. So when it came to finally sharing it, that was a huge step for me. That was a huge moment, and realizing, okay, people are actually going to read this story and they might not like it. But I have to tell myself, you know what? That's fine. This story is not for everyone. This story doesn't have to be liked by everyone. I'm okay with just one person in the world being like, yeah, that's a pretty nice story. That's all I'm fine with, because that one person is me. I am that one person that is like, well, this is good, and I'm just keep making what I'm making. So if you find that when you're on your own journey, making your own comic or story or whatever, and you're feeling that kind of anxiety, remember that the one person that you should even seek approval from is yourself. This is the biggest challenge, is telling yourself that, yeah, you're doing a darn good job, right? You know, it's a hard, honest day of work, and you got to tell yourself, yeah, this is all right. Give yourself a pat on the back. I find that I'm in a world where I'm kind of outside of the zone, that I feel that because I'm in such a little niche on Canvas or just sort of as an indie creator that I'm just doing my own thing. But I feel for anyone who's kind of locked into contracts or working on a project that they used to have love for but was changed beyond their ability, that they have lost their passion. So that's another reason why it's important to follow your heart. I know that's cheesy, but yeah, you kind of have to follow it, because who else would do it for you? Who else would nurture that idea if not you? So you are your one and only biggest cheerleader when starting out, and down the road, your comic or your creation, whatever you do, would gain more fans. It could gain other people that are in your camp, and they'll become your cheerleaders too. But for the beginning, you have to really cheer yourself on. You have to tell yourself, this will make it. I feel like that's something that I had to do for myself way back. I thought, oh, well, what am I working on this script for? I'll never see the light of day. What's the purpose of me doing it? I'm just wasting time on it. All these hours I put into it are pointless. But that was a big problem there, was that I had to remind myself, I had to believe in myself, and I have to, in a way, kind of lie to myself, because I don't know the future. I don't know where my story will be. I don't know, will I ever finish it? What will happen, right? We don't know the future, but you have to tell yourself, yeah, it's gonna do great. Yeah, you're gonna do well. I guess another thing that I wanted to reflect on was putting it out there, because maybe you're in the process of sort of creating or coming up with the ideas for a project and you haven't really put it out there. But this is something that I am now experiencing as a few months into having started publishing chapters as an indie creator with no other backing behind me, but just putting out into the world. It's very surreal, because there's someone out there. I'm always shocked when someone says, oh, I read your comic, because this is a story that I am so closely tied to, that when someone else is seeing it, someone else is experiencing it for the first time. To me, I find sometimes my story can feel a little boring to myself, because I'm like, oh, well, I know what everything happens next. And so I don't feel so much excitement because I've gone over those ideas thousands of times. But people who are reading it for the very first time, they can be shocked by something. And to me, that's shocking, because I'm not shocked by my own story. But I think that's really fun as an experience that I've had. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I put myself out there, because otherwise I never would. All those years ago, I was so afraid of doing what I'm doing now, because I couldn't imagine myself doing that. I think there's a point where you have to fool yourself into being the person that you want to be, right? You kind of have to fake it until you make it. And I know that's a piece of advice that's kind of flimsy, but it's kind of the truth. I wouldn't be here unless I told myself, oh yeah, I can do that. But in reality, back then, I probably wouldn't have the confidence I have now. So put yourself out there and believe in yourself and your dreams, and start your passion project. Thank you so much for all your support and listening to my unhinged, unscripted rant. I don't usually do these. I always need a plan. So this is something that is taking me forever to do because I keep on messing up. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Bye.